Okay, guys, part 2 of a 3-part series. This second session is going to be very emotional, saying goodbye to our 4-legged friends. Guys, I know that this is a tough topic to discuss, but I believe that the things that we are sharing in this session is going to help many people. Stay tuned. Thanks once again, ladies, for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about saying goodbye, when and how. And me personally, I'm grateful to have you ladies here. Michelle from Chicago, Janet from Kansas City, beautiful Eva here from Texas with me. And we want to share basically experiences, how we've gotten through saying goodbye. It's different for everybody. So those of you out there that are listening, please understand these are just our ideas. It's a very personal, very intimate thing for each individual person with each individual dog. These guys are our kids. So every one of them is different. And yet we have to prepare for this. I believe if we fail to prepare, we prepare to fail. And we were talking just the other day, Janet, about just the many, many years of loyalty and service that our beloved dogs give us. We need to manage this situation in the best way for them, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think I've had 2 dogs, and I've had I guess the not the pleasure, but the duty of making the decision on when it was time to let them go, and making sure that I was not holding on for my own purposes, recognizing the signs that they were sending me, telling me that they were ready to move on to a new life. I had one who was having some, heart issues, and we had dealt with that for, several years in his senior years with medications. And then it just got to the point at night, he was breathing super heavy, and I knew it was labored, and I knew that he was struggling. And I had hoped that he would be able to, leave on his own, but it was getting worse, and he was just in a worse and worse situation. And so I spoke with the vet, and the vet had suggested, well, we can try something else. And he was 13 and a half years old, and had given me so many wonderful years together. And so we finally made the decision to let him, cross over the Rainbow Bridge and and euthanize him. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fun, but just recognizing that he was ready to go.
Honey, do you think that these guys have a way of expressing to us that it's their time to go?
I really do. Like we talked about in the first part of this series, it gets to the point where you know each other, just like a married couple knows each other. You don't even have to say a word. So in tune to one another. You're in tune to your dog is in tune to you. You just know in your heart it's time to let go. And it's not an easy choice that we have as pet owners, because we love them just like we love our family members, because they are our family members. It's a hard decision to make, but like I like to say, you gotta get outside of yourself, your own comfort and your own feelings, and think about your beloved pet who's giving you so many years of just devotion and love, and just you got to put yourself in their shoes, and know that you're doing the right thing by letting go. Maybe it's going to hurt you like nothing else, but you got to think of them and give them the same devotion and love that they gave to you, and honor them. It's that time. It's that time to leave.
Sure. Michelle, you're a specialist at caring for senior dogs. That's kind of your ministry. So it's inevitable in your house. It happens probably more often than others. What are the signs that you look for in how to say goodbye? Like, your dogs share with you? Do you look for signs? How do you deal with it?
Um, well, it's one of the hardest things you can do is to be honest with yourself that, about the signs that they're giving you, because we don't like to let go. I mean, we want to cling to them as long as we can, because it's never long enough. I mean, it's just never is long enough. But, some of the things that you're going to look for that they're going to tell you that it's time is, number one, they're probably going to stop eating, because they, either because they can't eat any longer or because they don't feel like it. They're going to slow down quite a bit. Their breathing is probably going to be a little bit different, labored or panting a lot. That could indicate a lot of things, maybe some heart problems or lung problems. Their activity is going to be reduced, quite a bit. The only thing that they're going to be able to do is, lay there, or they might be vomiting a lot. They might find a spot, just curl up and want to lay, and not go anywhere. I lost one of my senior dogs a couple of years ago, and she gave us the sign on the day that she was ready, because she had stopped eating. She was, panting a lot because she was getting very dehydrated. And she she was just laying there. She was just laying there with us. And you can just tell, when it's time. Like, you just know, you feel it. And even though you might, like, we took her to the vet, and I kept saying, gosh, is there anything we can do? Can we do something? All of the options that we were given, I knew that it was more for us and not for her. And so we just had to be honest with ourselves and say that's, by trying to keep her alive, that's for us, but that's not for her, because she's, it's her time. It's horrible as it is, because it's not long enough. It's her time to go. And she's been telling us it's her time, and we're the ones that we don't want to let go, but we have to let go, unfortunately.
When it gets to the point that they're suffering because of my selfishness, that's where we have to make a decision. Now I'll tell you the flip side for me, you guys, and I don't know where everyone in our audience is at with their spirituality. I'm certainly not going to try to impose mine on you, but ladies, we're going to see these guys again. They're waiting for us. I stand strong in what Billy Graham said. He said, I believe that God has prepared all things that are wonderful for us in heaven. And if your pet is wonderful to you, you're going to see your pet again. And besides that, all dogs are good, and all dogs deserve heaven. So we're going to see them again. So for me, like you said, honey, it just makes it easier to get out of your own way and say goodbye, because you don't want them to stay here suffering. Things can get really complicated. Their quality of life is zero for the whole idea of just you hanging on. They would rather go. I think our dogs have a look that they give you and say, hey, it's time. If we're perceptive, I think we can read them and know. It's a very difficult choice, but it's one that we have to kind of brace ourselves for.
Yeah, I just think you just have to ask yourself, are they enjoying life right now? And if they're not, it's probably their time. If they're in pain, if they're not eating, if they're not active, if they really have no life, if they're just laying there, it's probably because it's their time to go, and we're the ones that want to keep them here for us, because it's hard to say goodbye.
Sure.
it's hard to be left. They just give you so many wonderful years, right? And you don't want to give that up. So it's a definitely a very hard decision to make. But I also feel better that, you don't leave them suffering. And I think, Eva, when we talked the other night, you had talked about honoring them because they have done, just such a wonderful job of being a companion for years and years and years. And I think that's a wonderful way to honor them, is to allow them to cross over when it's their time and not force them to stay longer for our own selfishness.
Right. Right.
Mhm,
It's like,
absolutely.
yeah, I believe they would hang on for as long as we wanted them to hang on, even in their suffering, because they love us and are so loyal. We owe it to them not to let them suffer.
Mhm.
So we've talked about the win, and that's the challenging part. But one way we can bring honor to these guys that have been so loyal and such a servant to not just us, but our entire families, right, is the how. How do we say goodbye? And this is something that I feel a lot of people just don't know how. I don't know of a book or a manual or any kind of checklist to go by. And it is different for every person with their relationship with their dog. But I want to just flip out some ideas that we've experienced. And I think if we put ourselves in the position of our beloved four-legged friend, you guys, I think it makes it a lot easier. So if it was my time to say goodbye, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, and you guys are going to jump in a minute and share much more, intelligently, I'm sure. But like if I was Apollo, my boy, and it was my time to go, he knows it's time to go. Dad knows it's time to go. How would I like to go? I guarantee you, I wouldn't want to be dropped off at a weird smelling place with a bunch of strangers. And the last thing I saw was strangers. Now, granted, Apollo's going to be waiting for me, but I think he deserves a little bit more gracious of a farewell than that. What do you all think?
Yeah.
You go first, Michelle.
I think that like you were saying, if you tried to imagine, how would you want to go? You want to go with your loved ones. You want to be able to say goodbye. You want to be surrounded with love. And I'm going to get emotional, but I remember when I lost Molly a couple of years ago, we made sure that we were with her. We made sure like we had spent the whole day with her, knowing that we felt like today was that day, it was her day. And so we made sure we spent the day with her. We lit some candles. We played a little bit of music that she liked. We just made a very calm surrounding, so that she wouldn't feel like, like you're panicking and you're crying. It's like, we didn't do that. We were with her. We were all the whole family was telling her, we love you. And, that's how I would want to go. I want my family around me. I want to be in a calm environment. I want to, smell some good smells or listen to some music or be calm. And then when it was time, we made sure that we were there and we were all stroking her and telling her we loved her and made sure we were looking at her. And I think that's how I would want to go. I wouldn't want to just be dropped off someplace. I mean, this is our family member. They've been loyal to us. And I think the way to honor them the best is to treat them like the loyal friend that they have always been to us, which is not to just drop them off at the vet's office and say, okay, can you, take care of it for me because I'm not strong enough. You have to be strong enough. You have to be there with them and you have to let them pass peacefully. And I think that's, for us, that's the way that we have handled it and the way that we find is best is to be there with them.
I love the way you said that. You have to be strong enough. And for those out there that are watching and going, I don't feel strong enough, you are. Just imagine all those years that your friend was strong for you and all the things that they helped bring you through. And you'll have the strength, if not for yourself, for them. And this is something I'm going to say before Janet jumps in. You all out there listening, and some of you have regrets like I do. I'm 54. I've gotten this point in life by making a lot of mistakes. So those of you that maybe didn't deal with it the right way, that's the whole reason we're sharing these things from these beautiful ladies that have insight on this. You have a second chance. You have another chance. So your beloved friend is still waiting for you if you didn't do it the right way. Yes, you owe them apologies. Yes, they are more than willing and waiting to forgive you and move on. I say that in the next life. But from henceforth, let's be strong enough, right? What do you think, Janet?
I just think I agree with Michelle and with you as well. They've just given you so many incredibly great years. It's the least, in my view, it's the least you can do, for them when it is their time to go. And that's just to be there with them. And, and I think we've discussed this before, something that I didn't realize is that the vet can come to your house. So they're in a surrounding, of where they've been 10, 12, 15 years, however old the animal is when it's their time to go. But even my last animal, my vet had a room just specifically for that kind of a situation. And it wasn't a sterile room with a sterile table. It was a room that had a sofa in it. And I could go in the side door, so we didn't have to parade in front of all the other people who had, healthy dogs or dogs that were just coming in for exams. And we were able to slide in, and I was able to, sit there with him for however long I wanted. When I was ready for, that to take place, they took him back and they got him prepared and then brought him back in and said, look, take as long as you need and, pop on out and let us know when you're ready to go. But even like Michelle, I didn't want to leave him. I want to be there with him. And, and I pet him through, throughout the whole entire procedure. And even though he was gone, the vet was just like, look, just take as much time as you need to allow yourself to, to start, grieving the loss of your pet. And, we didn't take care of the bill that day. It was handled later. So I could, actually slip out the door and not be all ugly cry face in front of, everybody who is in the waiting room waiting on their own pets. So it was a very peaceful process. It was a very loving process. And it was something that I would, always do for my pets, because that was something that, they had just given me, 12 years or 14 years or however many years of just love and just general companionship, throughout their whole entire life.
So there's vet clinics that have, like you say, an area just for this. What are some other ways, honey, that we can say goodbye?
More and more vet clinics are becoming more accommodating and more sensitive to this fact of life of people, having to let their pets go and stuff like that. And I know us living out in a rural area, we do have the ability to have the vets come out and visit us here at our own house. And if you have that ability, if you live in a place where vets do that, that's awesome. I actually said goodbye to my beloved Diesel here at the house. He and I would always get down there on his bed with him, and I'd snuggle up and put my head on his, on his body, kind of using him as my little pillow. And when he couldn't move anymore, he was just laying there, and we knew, okay, it's time, because he just this is not the quality of life for him. I just got down there with my face against his face, and just like you ladies, I loved him over and over again. What a good boy he was, and that he was trying to tell me at the time. There's many ways to say goodbye to your beloved pet, but I think all of us would agree that just have his family and just talk to him, tell him how much you've loved him over the years, and just make him feel as loved and as comfortable as you possibly can.
Familiar environment, the smells, the blanket. Like we had one of our dogs. I called ahead to the vet because I wasn't put together enough to take the dog inside the vet, and so I called ahead. I said, "Look, I don't really want to talk. When we get there, I won't be able to. But this is a situation. We had a hatchback. I had his bed, his toys. I loaded him, put him in there, and we drove to the vet. And up the hatch, and the vets came out to us in the parking lot. But like you said, our vet is at a very rural location, and so the last thing that our boy saw was a pasture with a couple of horses out there in it, and there was a familiarity. It was not a cold, unfamiliar place. So these are just ideas. You can go into the vet with your pet and let them know, that you're still with them.
Yeah.
Say things that they're familiar hearing. Like every one of our dogs, I think they live. Their bodies just wait. I can see their bodies react whenever we say "good girl," "good boy." To me, every dog wants to just be a good girl or a good boy. And so that's what I've said. And then you say it too. We say it, when they're alive and well. We say it when we're saying goodbye. So you can go in and spend those last few moments with them. You can have your vet come to your house. Many of them do. Just request. Like for us, it's just, shout out to Hopkins County Vet Clinic. It's $150 home visit. That's cheap to be able to honor them at those last moments. Or you can have them come out to the car and they can be in a familiar place in their familiar bed with familiar smells.
Yeah.
Anything else, you guys?
I think that there are even some vets or services that will go with you. Like if your dog's favorite place is the park. I've known that, there are some people, they have little ceremonies for their dogs in a park with, where everyone gathers around and, gets a chance to say, how much they love them and goodbye. And, and the park is an option. I think that you have to just look into what's offered in your area. For me, when I lost Molly a couple of years ago, it was wintertime. We didn't have a lot of options at the time. And so what we did was when we went to the vet's office, we went after hours. They let us go in, late. So we were the only people in the place. We brought her blankets, we brought her toys. We wanted her to feel like, she was, she had a lot of familiar things around with her. The whole family was with her. Our other animals were with her. And so we really just made an environment where, it was a very loving environment. It was, the vet's office, but at the same time, there's a way to bring some personality of your pet. Just like if your loved one went into the hospital, you can do the same thing with your beloved pet. You can bring pieces of them to the vet's office too, if you can't have the vet come to your house.
Thank you so much for sharing these things. It's very thought-provoking, and it allows us to start planning. I mean, it's a tough time letting our beloved pet go, but the fact that they're so kind and so gracious with us in that also, it makes it easier. And the fact that we'll see them again, that's really what makes it easy for me. Guys, thanks for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, make sure that you subscribe. And if you've got a friend that's got a Bulldog,
or is interested in getting a Bulldog, be sure you share this video with them because I'd love to have them aboard too. Y'all, thank you for your time once again. Have a great day.